Well, thank you, Alistair. Let's hear it for Alistair Kroll, ladies and gentlemen. A man in shorts, a man in sandals, and a man on the board of Startup Camp. All right, let's get this started. I'm here with Natalie. And Natalie, as everyone, I think, I hope they know that you're the person responsible for the art wall. Has anyone participated in the art wall? Thank you.
Hey.
All right, well, it's time to interview you, Natalie. And this is your first time ever on a stage, correct?
Ever.
The first word she's ever said on the stage, ladies and gentlemen, is ever. That will go down in history. It's being right now carved in stone on some wall. Ever. Natalie Hazen. It's going to... So there we go. You have a legacy.
That is fantastic.
We are going to go by the numbers, Natalie. Basically, I'm going to totally ignore this behind me. And I have some questions for you. And basically, we got to get to know the person here. So I want to know, like, by the numbers, Natalie, the one thing you want to accomplish by sitting up here on this stage today. What's the one thing you want to accomplish?
I want to get people excited about creativity. I want to get them thinking that they can be artists and they can do whatever they want with words and with images.
All right. So that's the one thing. Okay. So we'll continue with the number thing. I'd just like to know the two things in life you're most proud of. Because, you know, again, guys, I can follow up and then say, okay, because, you know, we can go along the lines, but I want them to know you. So let's just two things in life you're most proud of.
The first thing would be my family.
Okay.
Very, very proud of them. And the second
Does everyone know who
thing...
her family is, by the way?
What?
Did anyone know? Because you know she's married to Phil Tellio, who runs the Startup Camp. So let's hear it. So she must be proud of Phil. Because, okay.
Where's Phil?
He's right there. He's in incognito in glasses. He's incognito.
Oh, okay. Well, there's
was.
Phil.
Okay, so that's one.
Part of the reason I'm up here. So proud of you. Thank you. And the second thing that I'm so proud of is my work, which I do. I try to balance it all, and I do these wonderful art walls, and I get to do these crazy things. Phil says to me every year, "Are you sure?" And I said, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And I also work as an art therapist, so I work with kids and their families, and that is also just such a wonderful thing to do.
Now this is important because I'm serious about this. There are a lot of artists who are tortured artists and who are creative people and are not proud of their work. And there are a lot of people who even from musicians to painters to people creative who are not proud of it. So the fact that you're proud of your work, I think, is a great thing. Your family, Phil, we got to talk about, but we'll deal with that later. Three things you're scared of.
Three things I'm scared of. Andy.
Me?
Now is the time where I'm going to get you to paint.
Okay. Three things you're scared of.
I'll do one, you do one.
No.
No, okay, fine. All right.
Three things you're scared of.
Speaking, public speaking.
Okay.
There's number one.
But you're doing very well, don't you think, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank
First
you.
time. Now let's see if they remember. Natalie's first words were? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. The second thing that I would be afraid of would be something green and gelatinous.
Okay.
I don't even know what that is, but that would definitely be something yucky and scary.
Okay.
And the third thing I am at a loss is not knowing what to say.
Okay, that's important. But one thing that's cool, you didn't say you were afraid of failing, which is great in terms of being creative. Not being afraid of failure, I think, is wonderful. So I thought that was going to come up. That's very good. Really good. Good work. Okay.
Fear of failure.
Yeah,
as an artist? No. Artists are risk takers.
Okay.
Artists are all about trying out something new.
Four now. Yes. Four of your favorite possessions. Things you love.
I can't even start there.
Come on.
I have too much stuff.
Okay.
I would say that
but if there was a fire, God forbid, as a Jew always says before they say something negative, if there was a fire, God forbid, what would you say? What were the four things you would say?
Okay, I'm going to challenge you on that, Andy.
Why do I get challenged? I'm sitting here. I'm eating a knish. I'm the speaker. I'm the question guy. Four things you would do.
Okay,
Four possessions.
I'm going to tell a story instead.
Okay.
Okay. So
prerogative.
I had this wonderful memento from my grandfather, which was a watch, which he left when he died, and we got robbed, and it got stolen. And I realized at that point that, you know what, it's not about the things, it's about what you hold inside of your heart. So honestly, possessions, not so much.
Why didn't I marry this woman, I say? So, Right now, my wife is at home rent through. Okay, so to put this in perspective. My wife say 4? 4? Are you? Please. Is that 3 minutes, or go back to the third question? Okay, so thank you. Okay, well now we're going to talk about because as an artist, a creative person, I don't know too many wholesome or creative people, and that's why I'm wondering 5 vices, 5 things that are 5 vices you may have.
Vices.
Vices. Because we're getting to know you now.
5 is way too much.
What's that?
5 is way too much.
Give me 1.
Okay, there you go. Okay, 1 vice. Okay, I need some help from the audience here. I have
How
a lot
about
of
from one member of the
here.
audience specifically?
Phil, tell you, what is one of my vices? Please, be honest.
It changes from time to time. At one point, it was a carpet in the living room.
Oh.
Yes, I smell the next
There's no
question.
fights.
Okay, well done. Okay, seriously. Now you did want to. You had something up here,
I'm trying to answer your questions.
Yes, okay, but again, a viceless woman who cares not about possessions. I mean, and is creative. Is there a better human being on earth, ladies and gentlemen, than Natalie Hazen? Okay, well, unbelievable. But what's this? Tell us about this.
Okay. So what I brought here, thank you, Andy, is if you've been to the art wall, you've noticed that there's circles. So this is actually a blown-up print of some of the circles that are there. And the whole idea about the art wall and about the way that I work is that I really believe in collaboration. I believe in people working together and reaching into their creativity and seeing things and doing things that they might never have done before. So I brought to you these circles, and I'm going to ask Andy.
Me?
Okay. In this one, what do you see? And I'm going to paint.
Okay, hold on.
Okay? I actually wanted Andy to paint, but he refused.
No, it wasn't
So-
refused, but it would get on my pants.
You want to try?
It would get on my pants.
On your
There's
white pants. Okay.
You know what I see? Actually, it's terrible, but I see
Okay.
a penis going into a Venus flytrap.
Is it this? Is it this?
I'm sorry. Which is, yeah. I'm sorry, but she asked. Okay. Is it not that, ladies and gentlemen? Is it not a penis going to Venus flytrap? That is a testicle, yes. Thank you for making it Jewish. Thank you for the circumcision. Obviously a carnivorous plant, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Well done. Yes, there's also a little movement happening on the upper part, too. I think it's... Yes, and the plants, too. It's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. You'll get it soon. Okay. Yes, because I'm sure someone will come up with something equally as intelligent as I did. So, what's the one on top? Anybody have something there? What's that? An ocean, just like a penis in the Venus flytrap, I say. So, all right, well, there we go. Ocean with a moon and a penis in the Venus flytrap. Ladies and gentlemen, art, creativity, and Natalie Hazen, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. How are we doing for time? Perfect? Great.
Good.
So you
Thank
get to
you.
stay, and I get to go
But you'll be
drink.
back.
Yes.
You will be back. And I am
Bye.
going to interview Ondi. I know that Alistair introduced Ondi, but I will reintroduce her as she's walking up. World-renowned documentary filmmaker and person extraordinaire. Ondi, welcome.
I like the second part of the intro.
So, Ondi, I wanted to know, it's your 3rd time here in Montreal doing the Startup Festival. Why startups and why Montreal?
I made a film called We Live in Public that you may have heard of. It's a sort of a dark,
Yay.
cautionary tale, like a horror film starring all of us, about our relationship to the internet. And it was sort of as broadband was emerging, I was filming in downtown Manhattan with a visionary who's also very troubled by the name of Josh Harris. And so the data I recorded, which was 5,000 hours of footage over 10 years, actually was a cautionary tale about our relationship to technology in terms of the willingness we have to give up our privacy and our intimacy for the connection and perhaps the recognition we dearly crave, like that, almost like that Warholian 15 minutes of fame, but every day in every way with our own little social circle or whoever. So that was that film, and Josh really embodied that film, and that like went on and won Sundance and is in the Museum of Modern Art and all this, and we toured the world with it, and people would have these breakdowns when they would see the film and they want to tear down their Facebook page, and I'd say, wait, it's just to be more conscious, you know? So I kind of did that and then moved on to the next realm that I was documenting, which was climate change, when I got an email one day from a startup that had seen We Live in Public, and they said, you know, they sent me pictures and they said, we all have superhero names and we're going to change the world and we're going to start a social network and it's going to take over Twitter. It's going to be more than, not quite as many as Facebook, but definitely we're going to be Twitter. And it was just such a crazy email. I thought, well, this is the kind of email I just love to receive at 1 a.m. on a Friday. I think I'm going to go down there and check them out. So I went down and I started filming this group that they were called Send Love. And their concept was social accountability online, like send person love or not so much. And you could just do that. If enough people got on there, which is the problem, then you could send love or not so much. You could track like Obama in a speech or anybody's popularity, or even send love to your mailman.
Are they
or
still
whatever.
around?
No.
No.
No, but you guys should
curious.
not tweet that because we're creating a television series with the year's worth of footage.
Okay.
Partway through that, about 9 months into it, I realized that these guys had no idea what people wanted necessarily because they were stuck behind their computers. You should all go outside if you're entrepreneurs. You're outside right now. Congratulations. Yeah. Anyway, that's why I came here. I asked my staff to look up the next available conference or festival. I said, I must know what's going on in the tech world. I haven't been involved for several years since We Live in Public. And just book the next thing. So they contacted Phil Tellio and they said, Ondi Timoner would love to come and shoot at your festival. What do you think about that?
Serendipity.
And he said, who's Ondi? Yeah, he said, who's Ondi? And then he called me up. He said, who do you think you are? Come on down. And,
Yeah.
And then I realized that this was such an innovative and incredible place. And I fell in love with Phil and Natalie and the whole festival, and I've been here ever since documenting. And actually that started at totaldisruption.com, which is what I'm doing now.
So
which
what
is a
led you
portal.
to a total disruption?
Well, I realized I met all of you, or your brethren, people like you, maybe not you individually, and I realized that, that we're in the midst of a revolution, really, and that we're in the middle of the greatest shift in the history of mankind. And because I host the only talk show about documentary in the world, which is called Bring Your Own Doc, BYOD, I'm coming up on the 100th show. I'm aware that my colleagues are not documenting this. And the reason they're not is because it's so massive. So I thought, well, how can I do this? How can I do this? And how can I do this in a way that I'm not waiting 10 years to release it like I did with We Live in Public, or Dig, which took 7 years, So I thought, well, I'll create an online portal. I'll create a hub for entrepreneurs and innovators and artists to come together, to embrace technology, to get smarter, faster together. And so since then, I've interviewed everybody from the founders of Reddit, to the founders of Twitter and Square, to the founders of Zappos, and everybody in between, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also tons of startups. And Dave McClure, who I see lurking in the background. He's getting called out, but he's
Right
on
now?
the phone. Can you see him? He's pacing back and forth. We have like a terabyte of footage of him, who I met like 3 years ago at this festival. So it just kind of all came from here. So it's like coming home.
So right now you're really set up to do this and psyched about doing this, about a total disruption.
Yeah, I love it. It's very hard to keep up with. It's very difficult because there's so much, as you all know, there's so many new startups and so much disruption happening in so many segments. So I try to break it down by like disruption of government, disruption of education, disruption of privacy, disruption of, and it goes like that. And then on the site, we have all these original series. So we have Collaborate, where groups come together and you can look at hacker conferences or hackathons, or you can look at conferences like this. on that series, or you have Startup Life, or you have Wizards, where you hear from some of the guys who really made stuff happen, like Joe Lonsdale or Tony Hsieh. I'm trying to keep up with it, but we're seeking another. We just had a Kickstarter, and I'm about to interview Danae from Indiegogo, and I was telling her that I would have slept a lot more if I'd been on Indiegogo. But we did great. We were 150% funded, and now we're going for a round of financing to bring all of these interviews online into this highly searchable database, where you'll be able to search down to the word and find the answer and solution to whatever you need and whatever you're up against from my interviews. As well as you'll be able to create your own profile and share your idea and find team members, as well as a playlist of the stuff that's most valuable to you that I've created. We'll send that to you. So hopefully it'll be really a place for all of us to grow together.
I'm sure it will be. And
maybe I'll make a film, but I'm not promising anything.
I have a question about documentaries, and I really wanted to know what is your favorite documentary, and why?
Well, I have a few favorite docs. I mean, I have most recently, I love good stories. If you've seen my films, they're all like these suspense-driven, unfolding stories that I followed over time, like I'm doing right now with the Total Disruption. So I don't know what's going to happen next. So I love that kind of film, and the only references I have really before Hoop Dreams and my film Dig were the first two films of this modern era to do that again, was Don't Look Back in the 60s, where D.A. Pennebaker followed Bob Dylan, and you didn't know what was going to happen next, and you were right there living it, real, in it,
So it's really just living in the moment and going for it as it happens. That's your inspiration.
You have so many sensors on as a filmmaker, and I must say there's a real parallel with being a startup entrepreneur. You have to be aware at all times of what is going on, who's in the room, what you're filming, what you want to do next, where you want to put the camera. And you constantly have to be seeking a way to make your vision happen, much as you guys are doing. Yeah. So it's very interesting. I mean, I feel like that's the relationship that I have now. That's why I'm so drawn to startups. And I wish you all luck. I know something about time, and we have to wrap it up. So that's that. And in fact, I get to stay, though.
Yes, you get to stay. I get out. Thank you,
Natalie.
Hot seat it is.
Hello, Danae.
Hello, Ondi. How are you?
Danae is the founder of Indiegogo. She's the co-founder of Indiegogo with Slava, who I also know.
Yes.
Everybody, round of applause. This is a platform worth celebration. And plus,
woo-woo.
Beyond that, she left securities analyst life to do this. She went out on a limb and she made it happen. And through that, you've enabled how many different projects? Do you have your stats fresh?
We got our stats,
Okay,
yes.
go for it.
We have helped over 100,000 people achieve their dreams in the last 5 years. We're, at any given time, there's about 7,000 people raising money, and we're distributing millions of dollars, euros, Canadian dollars, British pounds, all across the world every single week. So it's working.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's unique. So for everybody out there how many of you have actually done a crowdfunding project so far?
Woo!
I would expect it to be more. Wouldn't you expect? I mean,
it's coming.
It's huge.
It's
a
huge.
huge wave.
It's huge.
What I realized in doing a Kickstarter was that it's about way more than the money. It's, I mean, you may go in because you're desperate for funding or you have this idea and it's the fastest and best way to make it happen. But what else comes out of it from your experience?
Sure.
What are some stories that stand out?
I mean, a lot of people come to Indiegogo because they think, okay, I need money or I want to just get a little money and test something out. But really what Indiegogo is about is it's about empowering you and empowering people around you to shape the world around you. And so what happens is when people fund you on Indiegogo, they're basically voting with their dollar and they're validating you. They're saying, I like your idea so badly, I want it to exist. And I'm giving you money to make it happen. And so with that market validation, what's happening is you're basically earning your way through life, and you're attracting traditional financiers, you're attracting distributors. We actually had a Canadian campaign that was starting a company called Knix Underwear. It's high-tech underwear for women. All the women should check it out. If you don't know what high-tech underwear is, it's awesome.
What does that mean? I'm sorry, I have to ask on behalf of the audience. Yeah.
Knix? Actually, I don't know what it stands for.
No. What is high-tech
High-tech underwear. Oh.
Is it like light up or?
It wicks away the stuff you want to wick away efficiently, technologically.
It like cleans you.
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, and what's so awesome about it is that this was a passionate entrepreneur. She's out of Toronto, and she saw the vision. She knew that this underwear should exist, and so she went on Indiegogo. She raised $60,000, and in the process of doing it, she attracted one of the largest retail clothiers in Canada, who were so excited about her project because so many people were voting with their dollar and saying, this is what I want, that they're like, we better get with the program and chase this entrepreneur. Notice I said the word chase. This is a big behemoth company chasing a little entrepreneur because they validated their idea. And they literally were chasing her so badly that they completely ignored their whole process of securing clothing, which is purchase orders, and like they send in a paper and then they pay like 6 months later when they get around to it. Totally screws the entrepreneur, where working capital and like getting your stuff out the door and getting that cash to make it happen is like super important. They totally ignored their whole process, went and made their people sign up for a PayPal account just so that they could get their order in order to get enough underwear in their order before the campaign closed. So this was a large company chasing this entrepreneur here in Canada just because the crowd and her fans and people who really wanted his underwear validated it.
It's validation of the idea, of the concept, as well as a community building platform. So, I come out with nearly 1,000 backers who are, as far ranging as the person who invented the hashtag, you know what I mean, to founders of companies. Yeah. And suddenly they're invested, right?
Yeah. Well, they're emotionally investing. But what's exciting about it, though, is that, or the reason why Indiegogo is built the way we built, which is we're the only gatekeeper-free platform, which means we don't judge. We don't decide who has the right to raise money and who doesn't. So we have no application process.
Anybody can have a project.
Anybody can have a project. It's all about giving the power back to the hands of the people to decide what matters.
And the reason I said I would get more sleep if I'd been on Indiegogo is because you don't actually have to make your goal to keep the money. You keep the money. Whereas on Kickstarter, if you don't reach your goal, you lose the money.
Well, we have both, yeah.
And
but
you have
yes,
that option.
We have the option.
Why
so you
do you
can,
have that option?
Because people are different. Every campaign is different, and we're priding ourselves on empowering people to go after their dream in the way they need to go after it. So sometimes the fixed campaign framework works better for them. If you've got a minimum amount of money that you need to raise in order to move forward on your project, you want the fixed where you only get your money if you reach that goal. That said, flexible is by far the more popular option on Indiegogo, and people use it like crazy, which is you get your money whether or not you reach your goal. You still have the advantage of the deadline and the time and all that stuff. So
I have 1 minute and 15 seconds to ask you
Okay.
a bunch of questions.
Go.
So, first of all, what was the inspiration? What actually inspired you to say, I'm going to create this, I'm going to leave my secure job and do this?
Yeah, I mean, it was my whole life was leading up to this. I didn't realize it, but I was the child of, I talked to you guys yesterday, like 2 small business owners who freaking slaved it out for 30 years, sweating it to try to get their business off the ground. Not once could they get a traditional financier to cut them a break. And no matter what they did, they just had to slave it out and basically bootstrap for 30 years. And I just thought that was so unfair. Such hardworking, hustle, honest people never got a break. And then I went into finance to understand this whole world and realized how screwed up it was and how broken it was because it was full of gatekeepers when I was trying to help filmmakers myself try to raise money and kept failing. And so based on all of these failures, which was basically a life of failing, I realized how finance was so messed up, and that the only way to fix it is actually to create a system that has no gatekeepers. Get rid of the gatekeepers, create an open platform. Just as you can, watch anything on YouTube or buy anything on eBay, you should be able to fund whatever mattered to you. And if you do that, then the world actually gets ideas that they want to come to life, and you, as an entrepreneur and a creator, have the power to make it happen. The only two factors that should matter are how hard you're willing to work and how much the audience cares. And if you don't have that, then maybe you shouldn't be doing the idea. But if you have that, there should be nobody else in your way, just you and your own hard work and hustle.
And as a woman, rock on.
Yeah. Sorry, I get really passionate about this.
That's good. I like that. As a woman entrepreneur, have you had any sort of resistance, friction? Can you understand why, something like 3% of VC-backed entrepreneurs are women in California? It's a higher percentage in New York, but
It's pretty bad.
it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Is it that we lacked role models? Like, why are we sitting up here just kind of doing whatever we want?
It's actually not for lack of women being in entrepreneurship. One of the stats that I'm most proud about Indiegogo is that 47% of all successful campaigns on Indiegogo are run by women. Go women. So when you create this equal playing field of a democratic environment for people to succeed, people succeed on their own merit. And so the question is, why is there only 3%? That's a really big question. But I'm starting with Indiegogo, and if we can start changing the ratio through Indiegogo, then that makes me happy.
Do you think it's a nature-nurture thing? I mean, do you think, it's just not feeling empowered?
Well,
or do you think there's actual resistance keeping us down?
I think there's a lot of factors. I think that there's definitely an opportunity for us to encourage young girls at a very early age to start businesses or
STEAM or STEM.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was always saying, if you want something, then go make it happen. Go open your lemonade stand, go sell cookies. I actually got shut down by the cops once in Golden Gate Park when I was 7 because I was selling chocolate chip cookies without a license. And I was like, why would the cop think that? And my dad, it's a lesson to learn. That's life. Figure it out. So it did take encouragement.
Your dad was an entrepreneur.
My dad, both my parents. My parents ran a business.
Mine too.
Yeah.
So there's your answer. I guess.
Encourage
all
your
of
young
you
girls.
Give birth and then raise entrepreneurs. Yeah. Right. Thank you, Danae.
Thank you, Ondi. You ready for this?
All right, I'm back after being psychoanalyzed after that. So, all right, let's go.
All right, so here's just a little tip. As someone who is a lover of crowdsourcing, get ready for me to crowdsource a couple questions. So I'll be reaching out to you guys in a couple minutes, so come up with good ones. So Andy, how are you today?
Good, thank you.
Are you ready for questions
Yes,
from the crowd? Okay, good. All right, but first, why don't you tell us what you do?
What do I do? I make myself miserable so the rest of the world could enjoy themselves. And I wish I was joking, but I'm not.
And why do you do that?
It's a masochistic thing. I don't know. I got to tell you, I'm not joking about this, but really, the people say, "What are you doing here? How can you be? You're in the middle of your festival." I'm doing here because I'm here because I'm escaping the office. Because at the office now, there's a ton of problems. Because basically, this is my day. I have no meetings. I walk in, and you just wait for the first shitstorm to hit, and it usually hits the second you walk in. And I'm not making this up. And then there's the next one, and the next. You know this. My cousin Josh, you worked with me. You know what it's all about. It's insane. So basically, you sit there and you just wait for the insanity to hit and the problems, and that's between now and the 28th of July. And the rest of the year is not much better. But I don't know. I wish it is masochistic. But I'll tell you why I do it seriously. When I go to a show, you see that guy there, the guy in the sort of shirt with everyone's wearing the pink thing next to the blonde girl with the glasses. That is my vantage point of the show. So when I go to a show, I usually stand in the back and I watch the show from the last row in the audience. And this is what I see. And I'm seeing this, a whole wave of shoulders going up and down because people are laughing, and that's what makes it worth it. And I know it sounds sucky, but trust me, when you're at Place des Arts, there's 2,000 people laughing, you're at the back, and you say, well, I guess it was worth it sitting there those nights and, having people yell at you and then, all this stuff, and you see these people laugh. That's why I do it. That's really why I do it.
Nice.
And I know it sounds sucky, but those moments, again, you're not going to believe this considering who I am because I said the penis and the Venus flytraps shit. But seriously, when I'm at these shows, I tear up. When I hear that the Just for Laughs music start, the lights go, and everyone clapping and then laughing, I swear I choke up and tear up every year.
Nice. what you had a big career before this, doing all kinds of crazy cool marketing for a technology company.
Yeah,
Correct.
well, actually, you know what? If you read further down on the Google search, you would have found that you, you would have found. I tell you, don't Google me. Just make it all up. But I started just for laughs, and then left when I got bored, and I discovered this thing called the internet. And I said, "Oh, this is really cool." And we started a business, myself and my partner Gardner Bornstein, a web content business when the web had, it was still dial-up and slow as hell. And then when that didn't work, we started a humor portal, which again didn't work. So then we started the mobile business when we, 1999, and told people, yeah, one day people are going to watch TV on these things with a black and white screen. And we were right, but we didn't know we were right at the time. And that was the beauty. So yeah, and then after all that, we sold it, and then I went back to Just for Laughs to try and make it digital, because Just for Laughs is such an analog company, still is, and we're trying to make it digital. But yeah, it's been a great ride. And even before that, I was a journalist. I was a rock and roll journalist as a kid at the time of my life. So it's been a good ride so far.
So every time you transitioned,
Yeah.
what were the questions you were asking yourself about figuring out how you're going to make the next decision to move to the next place?
Well, the first time it was made for me because I got fired. And it wasn't just like I got my ass fired. It wasn't just, oh, we're laying off some people. It was like, you're fired, because I threw a glass of wine at my boss. But no, it's just because he cut my tie. Actually, it was right near here. It was in the old port. We did the promotion. I was working for, I thought the rest of my life I was going to be a journalist. I was the happiest kid in the world. I was 22, and I've been working for 6 years. And I said, this is the way I'm going to spend my life. I was a journalist and a promotion manager for a newspaper. And we did this promotion at the old Spaghetti Warehouse. And what he did, this guy, they got drunk, and he came up to me and he cut my tie. And one thing you can probably tell with me, you don't fuck with the clothes, So basically, that may have been the first F-bomb at the conference this year. But anyway, so I said, I said, I said, okay, let me just try to put this on a jocularity scale. He thought it was a joke. He said he thought it was funny. So what equals a cut tie? I said, red wine on a white sweater to me is an equal humor level. Well, 2 weeks later, he was a sales manager. He became the editor of the paper, and the first thing he did was fire my ass. First thing. So the decision wasn't mine.
Got it.
I was 23, and literally I thought my life was over, which is astonishing because now I see like 18-year-olds doing startups, and I'm like, can you imagine you're 23 and you figure your career is over? That's really what it was. So the decision wasn't mine. It was desperation, and I had to do anything to try and make a living. So luckily, there's a whole other story how I just found myself in one day in the right place, right time for Just for Laughs. But
do you think you're a born entrepreneur or a bred entrepreneur?
Oh, I don't know. I guess you can say born because of the stupid things I used to do as a kid. I remember I lived on Westbury Street in where is that? In Snowdon. And I remember I came up with this thing. I took a shoebox and I tilted it and I dropped the marble down and I stuck a pencil in the bottom. I sort of like you're able to flick the pencil and hit the marble. So to me that was like a pinball machine. And I put a sign in the window that for 5 cents people can come in and play the pinball machine. And my parents, so that was my first entrepreneurial venture. And so I guess you can say it was born. But I'm very close to McGill University, and I'm actually teaching a course there in January. And they have these entrepreneurial things, and they say teach entrepreneurship. And I'm saying, the way to teach entrepreneurship, you want to teach entrepreneurship, tell them your mortgage payment is due, and and you don't have any sales. That's entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Sometimes in class, it's like when they say, well, let's take ski class. We're going to learn how to ski in a classroom, in the middle, and watch this video. I'm saying, no, that's not how you learn how to ski. So that to me is entrepreneurship.
Well, so you're a huge snowboarder.
Yes?
Oh, yes. So how has snowboarding made you a better entrepreneur?
That's a phenomenal question, and it's not as silly as it sounds. Because
Really? Damn, I'm trying to look for something good.
No, that is because when you snowboard, as much as you go ahead and you try and plan the next turn, things happen. As a snowboarder, shit happens. Somebody cuts you off. You don't see a bit of ice that takes from. You're always. It's a plan, react. You're saying, this is where I got to go. This is going to be my next turn. But something will always come up at you, and you got to deal with it. And that's what I love about snowboarding. It's just, you think you know where you're going, and you eventually get there. But man, the pathway it takes to get there is never exactly what you think.
Question.
5 vices. Clothes, jewelry, red wine. What's that? The tie? No. Okay, but it's vices, like things. Okay, peanut butter and Cool Whip, and sometimes mixed together. Those are my crazy vices.
Biggest failure.
Still to come. Still to come. Because you know what? Every time I fall on my ass, and very often I've put on shows that sucked, and I've had businesses that flopped, or concepts that flop, and products that flop. But the biggest failure is still to come because of the fact that I'm going to keep trying, and I'm not worried about it. And let's see what goes on.
Proudest moment?
Proudest moment. I gotta tell you, this is terrible. This is the crowd where I can actually get away with this story. And I'm sorry, and it's self-serving, and it's egomaniacal, and it's very, very money-grubbing. But I gotta tell you, proudest moment, and I'm not, I come from a very, and I know this, I come from a working-class family. My father, was my late dad was, I wouldn't say blue-collar, but he was a salesman. My mother had to go to work. It was very, very lower middle class family. I never had anything, and so my wife came from poverty, literally poverty. And she had to go to work to go ahead and bring money into her family because they wouldn't be able to survive. So that's where my wife comes from. My wife was really, really poor. So I remember when we sold the business, I was in Japan. And we were at you ever see the fish market? There was that where they do the auction. They took us there, and we got the call. I'll never forget this. We got the call, and it was like 2 a.m, and I got the call. The bank had opened, and they said the money is actually in the account. The Japanese company bought our company, and the money was in the account. And I called my wife, and I said 2 things. I said, congratulations, we're wealthy. And I said, now you can go to Holt Renfrew when it's not 60% off. So that was, and I know, as I said, it sounds self-serving, but we're all entrepreneurs. We're all we're not doing startups. Some of us are doing for the benefit of the world, which is great. But let's face it, we're doing this to have an exit, to do great things, to make money. So I'm not ashamed of doing that. But I'll tell you, when you can go ahead and tell your wife, who was dirt poor, I mean, really poor, had to get secondhand clothes, congratulations, honey, we're wealthy, that was a proud moment.
Awesome.
So
Thank you. Andy, everybody.
Thank you. Sorry, I got to do one thing. She had a question. She kept raising her hand.
Question.
If any of the jewelry, if we had an hour, every piece, there's a story. I can tell you after, but every piece has a story. This was a Father's Day gift from my wife when we went to an event, and she said, you look naked. We ran from the event across. Actually, Nancy, you were there at this. We ran from the event to Ogilvy. We were at the Bell Center, next to the Bell Center, the Windsor. We ran to Ogilvy's, bought it, went back to the event. So it was, and she bought me a Father's Day gift there. So every piece has a story. Some of them actually interesting. So. Isn't
it better when you involve the crowd?
So there we go. What do we do now?
You're done.
Wow.
So we all say thank you very much because that was so cool. Thank you, guys.